Good morning, parents, judges, and my fellow contestants. On June 8, 1789, an intelligent man by the name of James Madison proposed the Constitution to the House of Representatives. After debating it for just 2 months, they added 10 of his amendments to the newly ratified Constitution. The Bill of Rights is what these amendments are called, and even today there can be more added to give us, the people, more freedom. However, just how patriotic is this very important document? And is it the most patriotic? Well, patriotism is to take pride in one's country. And one thing that we can all be proud of is the Bill of Rights. Especially when some other countries act like we're still in the medieval times. Countries like North Korea, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Syria, and Afghanistan, all these countries and more have little to no rights for their people, making their life there miserable. This does not happen in America due to the Bill of Rights. This allows us to have our own beliefs, opinions, and even have our own guns for protection. Though some people may say that no one is safe as long as we have guns in our possession. This is not fully true. Some of us are safe because we have our guns. We can not only protect ourselves, but also our families if someone threatens us. So thanks to our Bill of Rights, we can not only have our own beliefs and opinions, but we can also have our own guns for safety and protection. Saudi Arabia, for example, has a vicious place with many names: Deer Square, Safa Square, or Justice Square. If you don't know any of these names, you'll probably know the name Chop Chop Square. This is where they hold public executions via beheading, chop off the hands of thieves, and stone women to death for cheating. Though these people may be criminals, no one ever deserves this type of punishment, because no matter what you did, it's unfair. Another example is North Korea. People here can't choose their jobs, haircuts, names, or even what to say or believe in. People of countries such as these have a list of what they cannot do, while we have a list of what we can do, the Bill of Rights. There are many examples of this all over the world, like Sudan, Syria, Afghanistan, and more. However, the Bill of Rights prevents this from happening to us, so we can do whatever we want with our hair, we can choose our own jobs, and we can even say or believe in whatever we want. And we even have a fair justice system, innocent until proven guilty. This is why people from all over the world escape the clutches of their dictators to come to our country just to experience our rights. These people risk everything, their families and even their own lives, just to possibly get a taste of our rights and everything that we take for granted every day. Though some people may say this is not true, and the most important document may be the US dollar. This is incorrect. Though it does allow us to not only acquire our needs, but also our wants, it does not give you your rights. It does not allow you to do what you want or even think what you want. The Bill of Rights is the reason you can use that currency, and that is why it is way more important. Even though there may be some flaws in our government, that does not matter, because if it was, it might as well be as real as remembering all the digits of pi, 3.14159. However, patriotism is to believe that your country, you can be proud in your country. And I don't know about you, but I'm very proud of my Bill of Rights. This is why it is the most patriotic US document. And if you don't agree with me, that's okay. Because without your freedom of speech from your Bill of Rights, you cannot even have your own opinions. Thank you.
If you are a parent, you have responsibility for your family, right? It is your responsibility to provide for their needs and ensure their well-being. As a parent, you are also responsible for guiding and supporting your child's emotional and intellectual development. You play a crucial role in setting boundaries, teaching values, and nurturing their overall growth. What if I told you, parent or not, you have other responsibilities as well? You have a responsibility to contribute to the well-being of others around you. You are important to this country. You have a responsibility to make a positive impact and create a better world for future generations. Good morning, parents, judges, and fellow contestants. My name is Vinicia Luna, and I'm here to talk to you today about what responsibilities we have for our citizens, if any. Theodore Roosevelt once said, "This country will not be a good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in." It is important to recognize that we all have a role to play in creating a better society for everyone. You are responsible for others. Whether that's your family, your friend, your neighbor, even your best friend's dog, you are responsible for treating others with kindness, respect, and empathy. By doing so, you contribute to a positive and supportive community where everyone feels valued and cared for. Remember that your actions have an impact on those around you. And by fulfilling your responsibilities, when we take responsibility for others, we not only improve their lives, but also contribute to to our own personal growth and happiness. By actively engaging of acts of kindness and compassion, we foster a sense of unity and connectiveness within our communities. This creates a ripple effect that can inspire others to follow and do the same, ultimately leading to a more harmonious and inclusive society for all. There are only two ways to make an impact. You can either make people feel loved and united, or you can make a permanent scar in their hearts. You have a choice. You have a choice to make a positive difference in the world or contribute to its negativity. It all comes down to your actions. Your actions have the power to shape the world around you, whether it be through small acts of kindness or larger efforts to promote equality and understanding. By choosing to be a part of the solution, you can help create a society where everyone feels valued and included. It may seem daunting at times, but even the smallest gestures can have a profound impact on those around you. So why not choose to be the force of good and inspire others to do the same? By doing so, we can collectively work toward building a brighter and more harmonious future for all. I say this because it's important to recognize that change starts with individuals and their actions. Each person has the power to to make a difference, no matter how big or small. So let's embrace our ability to make a difference, no matter how, to make positive change and make the world a better place for everyone. Let's spread a chain of kindness. Let's bring each other together. Let's spread love and compassion. Let's remember that even the smallest acts of kindness can have a domino effect, inspiring others to follow suit. According to Google.com, the quality of being patriotic, the definition of patriotism is the quality of being patriotic, devotion to, and vigorous support for one's country. By recognizing the power of our individual actions, we foster a sense of patriotism within ourselves. Patriotism goes beyond simply supporting one's country. It involves actively working toward its betterment and promoting unity among its citizens. Let's strive to be patriotic in our actions, whether it's through volunteering, advocating for positive change, or simply treating others with kindness and respect. Together, we can create a world filled with love and kindness and inspire others to do the same. Theodore Roosevelt also said, "Knowing what's right doesn't mean much unless you do what's right." Let's not just talk about making a difference. Let's actively contribute to the betterment of society. Let's lead by example and show others that by choosing kindness and compassion, we can truly make a lasting impact on the world around us. Our responsibility isn't just to ourselves, but also to the future generations who will inherit the world we leave behind. By choosing to be the change we wish to see, we are setting a positive example for others to follow, which can shape a better future for all. Let's embrace our power to make a difference and strive to a world where love empathy, and understanding are the guiding principles that unite us all. They do call it the U.S. for a reason. Together, we create a world filled with harmony and equality. So I ask you this. Do you want to continue to perpetuate division and inequality, or do you want to make the world a better place? That's the question we should be asking. Thank you.
Imagine the United States today without the U.S. Constitution. What would it possibly look like? Would there be equality for all? Would there be peace among us? Would we love our country as much as we do now? Welcome judges, teachers, students, guests, and fellow contestants. I am Brooke English. The U.S. Constitution outlines United States law and the basic rights of its citizens. The first 10 amendments are the Bill of Rights. Over time, we have added 17 amendments to it, creating a living document that adapts to the times. Some of the most important changes can be found in Amendments 13, 15, and 19, creating equal rights for men of all races and women. One of the most significant changes to the U.S. Constitution is the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment put an end to slavery in 1865. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "True patriotism springs from a belief in the dignity of the individual, not only for Americans, but for all people on earth." I believe she means that to love your country, you have to respect the freedoms and equalities of all its citizens. Equality for all is essential to the well-being and prosperity of our country. The 15th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution states that the right of citizens to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. This amendment was added to the U.S. Constitution in 1869, giving men of all races the right to vote. Although this amendment only granted men the right to vote, it was a step in the right direction, ensuring the basic rights of our democracy. This amendment came 4 years after the end of slavery, and I feel it was a response to changing times. Our country was founded on democratic principles, and to have a true democracy, all of our citizens must be able to participate, regardless of color. In 1919, the 19th Amendment was created to give women the right to vote. Before the 19th Amendment, only men were allowed to vote, and women had no voice in democracy. Susan B. Anthony once said, "There shall never be another season of silence until women have the same rights men have on this green earth." In her quote, Anthony states women will not give up and be silent until there is equality for all. This amendment came nearly 50 years after men of all races were given the right to vote. This is another example of how the U.S. Constitution has changed to the times. I'm grateful that it has, so that one day I can be a part of the democratic process of my country. The U.S. Constitution is a document that has changed and adapted to the times. Amendments 13, 15, and 19 are examples of how the Constitution has changed over the years. Without the U.S. Constitution, the United States would not be the great country that it is today. There would be less equality, patriotism, and peace. These amendments gave men of all races and women the right to vote, and abolished slavery. I'm so grateful that we live in a country where we can recognize our mistakes and make changes for the better. And I believe the U.S. Constitution is an example of that. Thank you.
Good morning, judges, families, and fellow contestants. We are all currently living in the U.S., or at least I hope we are right now. I know I am, and I love the U.S. The U.S. has equal rights for everyone, freedom, equality, and a place where you can grow up and make a living not only for yourself, but for your offsprings too. My name is Ruby Garcia, and I'm going to talk about the responsibilities that can keep the U.S. a suitable place for living for us and everyone else. Everyone has responsibilities in their lives, whether it is cleaning the house or doing the dishes. But we have other responsibilities within the government and our local community. Responsibilities within the government may include serving and taking part in our government, along with knowing what is going on within the government. Serving can be serving on a jury or in the military, or maybe you donate money to governmental elections. You can also take part in government by voting for government officials and encouraging others to go and vote too. Being informed of the government is knowing who is running what is election time, knowing what the laws are, and knowing what is going on inside the government. Along with government responsibilities, we have local and civil responsibilities, which may be going to cleanups, hosting sales, or going to a few of those sales. You can volunteer at schools, shelters, libraries, or you can even donate some stuff. A lot of people don't believe it can be very important, but it can make an impact. Responsibilities we have to other citizens that are impactful is showing respect. That is a very big one. Showing respect can be showing respect towards the flag, the Pledge of Allegiance, the Star-Spangled Banner, our history, our community, government, other people's beliefs, opinions, rights, and preferences. Again, a lot of these people may think that these responsibilities can be meaningless, but they have a very big purpose. Lots of people come or live in the US because it is a great place to live. But to keep it a great place to live, we must make it a great place to live. Following responsibilities within our government can benefit our well-being and our lifestyle. A big one is voting. We vote for running candidates to become our government officials that we believe can make a positive impact. If no one votes, someone who may not be a good person can rise to power and may be a negative impact. Serving can be just as important, whether it is serving other people, the military, or in a jury. If no one ever helped others, who would help people who may have physical or mental problems? What would happen to them? Or what if no one joined the military and fight the battles that gave us this home and freedom in the first place? Or what about serving on a jury? There are people who take at least a step to serve on the same government that made a home for millions of people in the first place. The least we could do is help serve in the government. Taking part in community can be just as important, whether it is showing respect, volunteering, or if you just do not litter. Showing respect can bring people together and help your community overall. It is shown in many ways that being divided is not good. We are the United States for a reason, because we are together and we are one. We can be stronger and accomplish more. Taking time for the community shows that you care and are dedicated to making your community a safe place for you and other people. A quote by Theodore Roosevelt I would like to recall states, "This country will not be a good place for any of us to live unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in." Don't you want to help shape a great home, a great country that you can feel proud about you, other people, and your descendants living in? Then we must stand up for our home and stand up for the responsibilities that affect our ways of living and keep the U.S. a suitable place. Thank you for your time.
Layla Gibty Akita once said, "If you don't keep your country clean, nobody can do that for you." Hello judges and students, my name is Brooklyn Bagoon, and the focus of my talk today is on how we can help our country. Helping our country is important because we need to keep our country beautiful and safe. I'll focus on helping the less fortunate, helping the environment, taking care of monuments, and donating. Now the first issue concerns helping the less fortunate. New York has more than 88,000 homeless people. They have either lost their home, job, or struggle from a mental illness. But there are tons of ways we can help them, with one being social media. Over 4.94 billion people have social media. Social media is a great way to spread awareness. Artie Plaschet, who is a woman experiencing homelessness, said, "Quite frankly, I'd be sleeping on the streets if I hadn't opened myself up to social media. I'm off the streets now because of it." Isn't it amazing what social media can do? The next point I want to make is pollution. The Pacific Ocean has experienced the most pollution as an ocean. Over 1 million marine animals die each year due to plastic debris in the ocean. NationalGeographic.org stated, in fact, more than 40% of plastic is used only once before it's thrown away and lingers in the environment for a long, long time. As a country, we need to work together to keep the environment clean. We can use reusable water bottles, make homemade meals, and of course, recycle. Doing these things can reduce pollution and help the environment. Another issue is U.S. monuments. One of the important things in the U.S. are our monuments. In 2020, a monument in Birmingham, Alabama, made to honor troops in the Civil War, got dismantled and graffiti was throughout it. Just recently, an Abraham Lincoln monument was destroyed with red graffiti words written all over it. These monuments are made to honor amazing people. We need to keep them clean. A way we can is by, during times of riot, place police in front of important monuments. As citizens of America, we need to respect soldiers, monument or not, because they fought for our freedom. Lastly, I want to cover donations. You can donate to as big as a children's hospital and to as little as putting spare change in a tip jar. Donating is super important because it can help people with illnesses or someone trying to make spare change from a small business. No matter who you choose to donate to, it will benefit them. I found on cafonline.org, knowing someone who gives to charity can be a catalyst to giving to charity yourself. Showing that you give to charity can influence others to give as well. The main message today is how we can help our country. My 4 main points have been helping the less fortunate, helping the environment, taking care of monuments, and donating. Are you willing to fight for your country?
Good afternoon, fellow contestants, attendees, and judges. I, Angeline Toma, am very eager to share this experience with you and dedicate my speech to how we can improve our country for the best. My question to you all is, how can we make our world a better place? Do we have responsibility? Like Theodore Roosevelt once said, this country will not be a good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in. This quote resembles how us, humans, have a lot of responsibility for the land we live in, known as the place of new beginnings. All of us have the opportunity to make the world a better place to live in, so why not? A way to make our country better is through community. Our colony is an aspect where everyone can contribute through. We, as U.S. citizens, can help our country recover from all of the past damages, such as wildfires, air pollution, deforestation, and many more. One simple movement through environmental involvement can help transition our world to a better place. Cleaning up trash, planting more trees, and conserving water are all simple ways to bring our land one step closer to peace. Tying back to our quote, we make it a good place for all of us to live in. Community is a place where together we can all contribute. Furthermore, our citizens need to be there for one another. Many people are struggling financially, therefore it affects their physical well-being. Problems like world hunger, domestic abuse, poverty, education, and healthcare issues can all be solved with your help. Contributing to conflicts like this is unchallenging as long as all of us stick together and put the effort in. Ways we can assist is donating. Shelters like the Cass Family Shelter and the Homeless Haven, both located in Arizona, are free to accept gifts. Fundraisers and charities are a significant way for cash to go to a good cause. Finishing with food banks. Food banks are a distribution center where families in need can receive food. Contributing to these food banks help individuals keep their stomachs full through rough times. Regardless of who we are, there are options and ways to help. No matter how small of a donation or gift, everything counts. On the other hand, occasionally being there for one another is all our world needs. The root to our country's conflict is disrespect. People dishonor our country by disregarding laws, littering, or just not being kind to one another. Ways you and I can help contribute to this are supporting one another in each thing. Thank people such as veterans, first responders, and close friends and families for their dedicating love to you and one another. Each morning, I greet my teacher and our class voices the pledge. We all stand discreetly for a moment of silence. That is one way my class, as a whole, think highly of our country and flag. Respect is not given, but earned. Every day, each and every one of us need to show respect to help our country. Step by step, we can bring our country to being a better place. In conclusion, our country should be a safe haven for all of us to live in. Yet, the way our country is being treated is very unacceptable. So we, as citizens of America, need to step up. That is how we make it a good place for all of us to live in. Thank you.
Welcome, judges, fellow contestants, parents, and other guests. My name is Helda Kiter. Have you ever wondered if the Constitution is outdated? Well, if you have, then you're in luck, because today I will be talking about why the Constitution is not outdated. Like it or not, we use and practice rights, part of the Constitution, every day. That includes freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and the fact that the Constitution still empowers us. Before we get started, let's talk about why most people think that the Constitution is outdated. One of the main reasons why most people say that the Constitution is outdated is because it hasn't had that many changes. But in reality, it hasn't had that many changes because it was made to adapt in time. In fact, some things we do and practice every day are rights we have that other countries do not have. A great example of that is Iran, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia. All three of these countries have one thing in common, and it's that they don't have freedom of religion. One of the main reasons why people are so patriotic is because we have freedom of religion. Secondly, another right we often take for granted is freedom of speech. You might be wondering, well, what can I say that's legal? According to global research in the United Arab Emirates, it's illegal to curse and say bad words. Business Insider states the average American uses 80 to 90 curse words a day. And another thing you can say that's illegal is in Turkey. You can't say or direct any offensive comments towards the government. And lastly, our Constitution still empowers us. One of the main reasons why people say that the Constitution doesn't empower us is, well, kind of pretty simple, because they haven't looked into it that much. But in reality, if you look into it, we have so many rights that empower us every single day in every second of our life. A great example of that is women getting the right to vote. Before the 19th Amendment, women weren't allowed to vote. Women were expected to be stay-at-home moms and never voice their opinions. But not all women thought this was fair, and they spoke out. Thanks to the women that spoke out, the 19th Amendment was passed on in 1919. And lastly, our Constitution still empowers us. But another way our Constitution still empowers us every day is the right to protest. Let's look at Russia on one hand and America on the other. In Russia, to be able to protest, you would need to get an approval from the government. But in America, to be able to protest, well, you just protest. And a great comparison, and a great example, is the Black Lives Matter protest that took place mid to end 2020. In conclusion, the next time you think to yourself that the Constitution is outdated, well, think again, because we use and practice rights, part of the Constitution, every day. Also, just remember to be thankful that we live in America and to stay patriotic, because we use and practice rights that other countries do not have every second of our life, which makes the Constitution still 100% relevant. Thank you, judges, fellow contestants, parents, and other guests, for taking the time out of your day to listen to my speech.
Good morning, everyone. Way back in June 1927, Theodore Roosevelt wrote a quote that stated, "This country will not be a good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in." My understanding of this quote is that if one person gets special rights, everyone else should as well. When I think of this quote, I think of equality no matter who you are, what you look like, your gender, race, or economic status. This depends on the government to ensure that there is equality, though it's also up to the voting citizens. For example, countries such as Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, and multiple other countries that are run by dictators and communism are prevented from many freedoms that we take for granted, such as a fair and equitable voting system, the ability to share thoughts freely, and access to equal education. Without the rights we have today, our government would not be the same. Going back to 1776, when ancient Rome influenced our government, we gained the ability to speak our thoughts without facing violence, have women seek an education as well as voting. One right I'm privileged to have as an American is education. Most females take for granted their accessibility to learn. Here in America, girls can get an education, but over 1 million girls do not go to school even today. In 2023, the UIS Global Database showed that over 500 million women still didn't know how to read. Women all around the world are educated on cooking and cleaning instead of reading and writing. Some countries still only have men going to school and college. It's important for women to get an education so we can get jobs, build stronger families, communities, and economies. Those same countries lose more than $1 billion a year failing to educate girls to the same level as guys. Another issue countries are facing is that women have to pay the pink tax in all but 27 countries. The pink tax refers to how a woman has to pay more for the same or similar product or service that a man gets. For example, if you get a blue or green colored toothbrush, it'd be cheaper than a pink. Feminine hygiene products like shampoo and deodorant will cost almost twice as much as men's, though they usually have the same ingredients. Since here in America, we don't really have to pay the pink tax, this makes our country more equal than others and doesn't show special rights to certain citizens. We as free citizens have the right to speak our mind no matter who we are or what we look like. In America, we can speak without the fear of getting punished or going to jail. The freedom to express an opinion without the fear of being prosecuted is an important cornerstone of a free society, yet this right has a long history of suppression. Throughout history, individuals have been punished for criticizing their rulers or sharing their ideas that challenge the establishment of their time. Although up until 1870, only white people were allowed to participate in one of America's biggest privileges, voting. With voting, we can choose who the president is in a fair way. But voting isn't just picking a president. It's also voting on school wages, rights, profits, and many other controversial topics that affect the equality of our citizens. Some countries still only let men vote. Currently, all citizens, regardless of gender, race, or economic status, are lucky to state their opinion on what they think is most equivalent to everyone and who they think is best for our country. This is also why we're not as equal. U.S. citizens are constantly picking and choosing our rights and voting for our equalities. America has so many good principles that are keeping our citizens connected and happy that have developed over the years, such as access to equal education, voting rights, and a fair and equitable, and speaking freely. Without these rights, America would not be the same, which brings us back to Theodore Roosevelt's quote, "This country will not be a good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in." With him rightfully stating that quote, he's expanding on the fact that some people get more benefits or rights than others. Thank you.
What is responsibility? What does it mean to you? And if any, what responsibilities do we have to our fellow citizens? Hello, I am El Dasset. Welcome judges, fellow contestants, and family members. Many people may be familiar with the following quote by Theodore Roosevelt. "This country will not be a good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in." This being said, in other words, some things we can do to improve our country are staying informed. Staying up to date with current events helps us to understand the issues that affect our country. This knowledge empowers us to make informed decisions and contribute positively. Celebrate national holidays. Participating in celebrations and events on days like Independence Day, Memorial Day, and Independence Day are great ways to honor our country's history and show our appreciation. Support local communities. By supporting local businesses, artists, and organizations, we contribute to the growth and prosperity of our communities, which in turn strengthens our nation. Get to know your neighbors. Engage in respectful conversations with others, Even if we have differing opinions, it is important to listen and understand different perspectives and find common ground for the betterment of our country. Serve your community. Volunteering for local charities, organizations, or community projects is a wonderful way to give back and make a positive impact on our society. Remember, patriotism is not just about grand gestures, but is also about the everyday actions that reflect our love and commitment to our country. Fly the flag. Display the American flag at your home or workplace. It is a symbol of unity and patriotism that can inspire others and show your love for your country. Support our troops. Show appreciation to our military personnel by sending care packages, writing letters, or volunteering with the organizations that support local veterans and active duty service members. Get involved in politics. Stay engaged in the political process by voting in elections, supporting candidates who align with your values, and even considering running for office yourself. It is a wonderful way to actively shape the future of our country. Educate others. Share your knowledge and passion for our country's history, values, and traditions. Teach others, especially younger generations, about the importance of patriotism and the responsibilities of being a good citizen. Patriotism is a personal journey, and there are countless ways to express it. Find what resonates with you and embrace it. Ralph Waldo once said, "The love of one's country is a splendid thing, but why should love stop at the border?" This emphasizes the idea that patriotism should extend beyond national boundaries and encompass a broader sense of global unity. Patriotism is how we show our love and respect to our country. For America was not built on fear. America was built on courage and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. In the end, patriotism is more than just a feeling of love for our country. It is a call to action, a commitment to uphold the values and principles that make our nation great. It is about embracing diversity, standing up for justice, and working together to build a brighter future. By showing our patriotism through acts of service, civic engagement, and a deep appreciation for our history and heritage, we can contribute to the continued growth and prosperity of our beloved United States of America. So, I ask you, what can you do for your country? From this day forward, what are some ways you plan to show your patriotism and contribute to the betterment of our great nation? Following that, let us always remember that the strength of our nation lies in the unity of its people. Together, we can create a better tomorrow.
Greetings to every judge, parent, and fellow contestants that have come to attend this event. Today, we gather as one nation, united in our pursuit of liberty and justice for all. We stand on the shoulders of all those who fought, struggled, and sacrificed to build a nation dedicated to the proposition that all are created equal. As we learn and pass down the story of our nation's history, we are reminded of the wise words of our forefathers who declared, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the creators with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." These words written in the Declaration of Independence are not just a tiny fragment in our history, but a light to guide us for our present and future. These words remind us that our nation's glory and greatness is not measured by the power of the few, but the prosperity and well-being of all. As President Theodore Roosevelt so put it, this country will not be a good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in. We are responsible for building up this nation to where every opportunity and resources they need to thrive. A nation where every voice is heard, every individual has the access, every hand is lifted, and every heart is valued. We must come together to create a society where equality is not just a dream, but a reality, where justice rolls down like water. Let us remember that our patriotism is not merely shown through symbols and slogans, but through actions we take to uplift and support one another. Let us march forward together, united in our diversity, strengthened by our differences, and guided by the principles of freedom, justice, and equality for all. Thank you.
Did you know the Constitution has changed over 20 times? Hi, judges, audience, and fellow contestants. My name is Emilia Rogers, and I'll be saying how the Constitution has changed over time. The Constitution is an important document, but some things should change or stay the same. For example, the Eighth Amendment should stay the same, while the Second Amendment has changed or gets removed because it has hurt many lives. Even though the Constitution was made in 1789, it was last changed in 1992. It has been changed 27 times in a 203-year difference. It was last changed May 20th, 1992, and is still able to change today. This supports my argument that the Constitution has adapted over time to our society, and this important document can still change for the better too. One amendment that can change for the better is the Second Amendment. This amendment should be changed or altered. The Second Amendment states that everyone has the right to bear arms. It was created December 15, 1791. This law means anyone who has a permitted gun and a license can carry around and use a gun at any time. If they have those two things, they can hurt or kill somebody anytime in public. At this point in public, that means you are always putting yourself at risk because of gun violence. Most people carry firearms to protect themselves or their family from people who want to use it for worse. Even in airports, you can't even have them, which just shows how much of a major danger it is. Just a couple weeks ago, there was a shooting on 83rd Avenue. My family was nearby and could have gone injured or worse. No one got hurt, but there's always that risk at play. This law is dangerous and can have many negative effects on society, and people will even feel safer if this law was changed. On the other hand, the Eighth Amendment should stay the same. This amendment states that everyone has the right to have protection against cruel and unfair punishments. This law was created in 1791. It was created in fear that the government would abuse its power. Fortunately, 17-year-old Christopher Simmons was almost sentenced to death row, but because of this amendment, he got life without parole. It saved his life. He was born April 10, 1973, and was sentenced on August 23rd, 2003. He died December 17, 2021. He lived a long life because of this amendment. Before this amendment, the punishment would be burned at stake because of heresy or religious crimes. As you can see, the Eighth Amendment has saved many lives from horrible punishments. As for attackers that punish people, they will get punished properly for their crimes because of this amendment too. The United States Constitution will continue to change and adapt to our society. The Constitution changed 27 times in 203 years. The Eighth Amendment has saved lives, so it should stay the same. Meanwhile, the Second Amendment has made us risk our lives, so it should be altered or taken out. In order for that to happen, it has to be proposed by 2/3 of both houses of Congress, then 3/4 of the legislators have to ratify it. This proves that the Constitution has changed and adapted to our society. And if we change laws that risk our lives, why don't we change amendments that do the same?
Welcome judges, audience, and fellow contestants. Thomas Jefferson himself once said, "Every constitution then and every law naturally expires at the end of 19 years. If it be enforced longer, it is an act of force and not of right." This quote demonstrates exactly why the Constitution needs our attention. To care for and try to maintain the Constitution is one of the highest levels of patriotism. Much of the Constitution does not relate with our world currently, especially the more outdated amendments. Two of these amendments being the Second and Third Amendment. The Second Amendment used to help keep us safe, but now it's causing more harm. The way people use guns now is completely different than they were used back in 1787. The men who wrote the Constitution probably never imagined that people in 2024 could have tiny guns that could fit in their pockets, but could shoot so fast that the bullets would look like a blur. The most powerful gun in 2023 could fire up to 1,000 rounds in a minute. The most advanced gun from the early 1700s only fired up to 9 shots per minute. Guns now aren't just used for war like they were in the 1700s. An angry individual in our world today could easily just pull out a firearm and start shooting whenever they want. According to Alex Martichow from his Crime Going Up in America, Some Types Are, new FBI data shows, the murder rate in the US jumped 29% during the pandemic, which created huge social disruption and appended support systems. Also, in 2021, 48,830 people died from gun-related injuries. This figure included gun murders and gun suicides. 43% were murders, and about 8 in 10 U.S. murders, or 80%, involved a firearm. John Gramlich, Associate Director at Pew Research Center. If the right to bear arms was altered, maybe these deaths wouldn't have occurred. If we made it so that not just anybody could own a firearm, the world would become safer. The Second Amendment definitely isn't the only right that needs to be changed, though. The Third Amendment proves this point even further, as there's no need to quarter soldiers anymore. The Third Amendment has gotten the least court cases and has never been in a Supreme Court case. Compared to the other amendments, it is not relevant in our world today. This truly proves that some of the Constitution should be changed, especially since the Third Amendment hasn't helped in years. According to Becky Little, in Why We Have the Third Amendment and Why It Rarely Comes Up in Court, since the Third Amendment's ratification in 1791, the U.S. Supreme Court has only mentioned it a couple of times. This statement shows how little the Third Amendment is really used. It's not that it's dangerous like the Second Amendment, but it's the fact that it should be removed from the Constitution or at the very least modified because of how outdated it is. Although I believe this, some others may have a different opinion on this subject. Some may believe that the Constitution should stay as is. Others may think that the Constitution is fine as is and that no change is needed because we should keep things the way they used to be. They might also argue that people shouldn't have limits on any of their rights. Well, according to Sarah Isger from It's Time to Amend the Constitution, as we get further from the drafting of the Constitution, the more changes should presumably be needed to keep that document up to date as technology changes and social mores shift. This shows how as the world gets more advanced with technology, weapons, etc., the Constitution starts to become less applicable to the modern day. In conclusion, as our world continues to grow, the Constitution should have rights added, modified, or even removed to help keep people in America safe. The Second and Third Amendment are clear proof of this, as the Second Amendment has been causing danger in America for years, and the Third was clearly not meant for the 21st century. It can be argued by some that the Constitution should stay as is, but we should all agree that the Constitution does need our attention. Maybe someday the Constitution will finally get the changes it needs, or maybe it will stay the same for centuries to come.
This country will not be a good place for us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in. That is a quote that Theodore Roosevelt gave in his speech, The Duties of American Citizenship, in 1883. Before he was president, he gave his speech to tell the young people of America that they could cleanse the political system of corruption. Hello, my name is Adeline Gonzalez, and today I would like to talk to you about Theodore Roosevelt's quote. This country will not be a good place for us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in. The key words in this sentence are make it. We can't expect that someone else will come along and change this country for us. We have to be brave enough to change it on our own. There are a lot of examples of people in America's past who were willing to make a difference. The first was when Abraham Lincoln became president and abolished slavery on January 1st, 1863. The country went to war, and even Abraham Lincoln said maybe he was willing to keep slavery if it meant keeping this country together. But he did not give up. When the Founding Fathers were putting together the laws for this country, they wanted to abolish slavery, but they needed people on their side to fight the war with Great Britain. So slavery stayed. President after president went by, and none of them did anything about it. Abraham Lincoln, though, did something about it. If he wasn't brave enough to fight for equality, who knows what kind of country we would live in today. Another example is the women's rights movement from 1849 to 1920. In the summer of 1848, Katie Stanton and Lucretia Mott organized the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca, New York. The number one goal of the women's rights movement was to earn women the right to vote. Before that, men had only all the power. Only they got to be president. Only they got to decide. Women were expected to look pretty and make babies. Fortunately, a few women changed this. Beginning in the mid-19th century, generations of women's suffrage supporters lectured, wrote, marched, lobbied, and practiced civil disobedience. On March 3, 1913, 8,000 women marched in Washington. The moderate march turned into a full-scale revolution for change. Women have come a long way since. We are now living in a time with the first woman vice president. We are making slow progress, but progress nonetheless. The last example is the civil rights movement from 1954 to 1968. Martin Luther King Jr. spent 14 years trying to earn equal rights for everyone. He went to jail 29 times, and not once did he stop fighting for equality. Then he delivered that iconic speech, I Have a Dream, on August 28, 1963. It helped change people's minds about the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr., the women's rights leaders, and Abraham Lincoln all made this country a better place to live in. But that was all in the past. What about the now? A kid named Connor Jernigan got beaten up. He suffered a bad brain injury. While beating him up, they used brass knuckles. Brass knuckles seem to have no use except to inflict pain on innocent people. This kid is only 16 and is working to ban these in Arizona to make sure no one has to go through what he did again. A kid named Spencer is also making this country a better place to live in. When he was little, someone close to him died of suicide. When he got into high school, one of his best friends died the same way. He now knew 2 people who had died this way and wanted to help. So he got into contact with Teen Lifeline, an organization that helps kids who are feeling suicidal. They also recruit teenagers to help the kids that are feeling this way. Spencer joined Teen Lifeline and now is helping save lives. There are still so many ways you can make a difference. We may not be old enough to vote, but we are still old enough to speak up. All of these people I have mentioned have made this country a better place to live in. They did not wait around for someone else to do it for them. Any one of us in this room could be the next president or impact someone's life. We can't be afraid to try. This country will not be a good place for us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in. Remember those words and make this country a better place to live in. Thank you for listening and have a great day.
Think of a time in history that was filled with sorrow, violence, and disillusion. You may think of the Cold War, the Great Depression, the Holocaust, or even 9/11. The one I'm thinking of occurred long before any of those. 1776, when a special document was written to declare that America and her colonists were to be unchained from Britain's cruel power. A document that gave rather a sense of happiness, justice, freedom, and was considered as a gift from the works. The document, the Declaration of Independence, a document that I feel most exemplifies patriotism because of the gift of freedom and American identity and the pursuit of happiness. The first of which, the Declaration of Independence, has granted America and her colonists freedom from the British. Before the writings of the document itself, life for the colonists under the British supervision was hard. National Archives stated that King George was unjust, took away freedoms, and resisted to listen to the words of the colonists. Imagine you lived during that time when the king would treat you like a pawn, drain all of your freedoms, and would not give you the God-given happiness that you deserved. If that is America right now, I would be miserable because I do not want to do the will of an unjust leader. Thankfully, this was yet to take a great and sudden change. America rose up, and with a stroke of a pen, the Declaration of Independence was drafted, signed, and became America's official gift of freedom and won the help to find who she is. In America's early years, America had no identity of her own. In the colonies were filled with British flags, soldiers, and government. Basically, no sign of the America that we know today. The way I see it, America, was a blank space. But a fire grew inside, and soon she became a place of bravery and passion. And when July 4th, 1776 happened, America became new and grand, creating new government, democracies, laws, and even songs, all leading to what she is today. But this piece, this document, did not just create a new identity for America. It gave us, we the people, a wonderful gift, the pursuit of happiness. In America's early years, America's pursuit of happiness was derived from philosopher John Locke. John stated that since God has given one the natural right to pursue happiness as a natural right, the government should not interfere with anybody's pursuit of happiness. Writers of the Declaration of Independence agreed with Locke. They placed 35 wonderful and iconic words into the document itself, stating that we hold these truths to be self-evident,
that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is really what the pursuit of happiness is, as Emory University defines this term as actually practicing happiness, the experience of happiness, not just chasing it, but actually catching it, meaning you be happy no matter the circumstances, as a God-natural right. Having this makes me extremely happy because I could be prideful and I could be patriotic for what is in America today, or else I would just be an absolute ennui. In other words, fruit of dismal apathy. Overall, the Declaration of Independence most exemplifies patriotism because of the gift of freedom, an American identity, and the pursuit of happiness. Without these gifts and meanings, America would be pointless, nothing, inexistent. These qualities give America and her citizens freedom to do anything that their hearts desire, an American identity filled with bravery and passion, and most important to me, a pursuit of happiness that fills me with pride and patriotism for her. In all, the Declaration of Independence has brought our country to the way it is today. A loving, patriotic, beautiful country. Her name, the United States of America.
Did you know that the Bill of Rights was not originally included in the Constitution? Good morning, everyone. My name is Amelia Perry, and I am representing Santa Fe Elementary. The Constitution of the United States is one of the most recognizable and significant documents in American and possibly world history. However, one of the most important parts of this document was not added until 1791, 4.5 years after it was written and 3.5 years after it was ratified. How could such an important part of our society today not have been included in the original outline for our country? This is because the Constitution was meant to be modified to fit America's changing needs. Proof of this would be the Supreme Court's powers over the Constitution and the additions to the Bill of Rights. In my speech, I will explain my points, as well as discuss the framers' visions for the Constitution. Have you ever noticed what the Supreme Court does when a case is brought to them? Some of their main jobs are to interpret the Constitution and change it accordingly. For example, in Miranda v. Arizona, the Supreme Court saw that it was unfair to expect suspects to know their legal rights without first being told. Therefore, they made a federal law that your Fifth and Sixth Amendments must be told to you while you are being arrested. This later became known as your Miranda rights. With this new law came further changes. In New York v. Quarles, the officer making the arrest did not read the person they were arresting their Miranda rights before they were detained. This was determined to be a lawful arrest. The officer was aware that Quarles had a gun, and to prevent injury to bystanders, he restrained him prior to reading his rights. In these two cases, we could see the Constitution change not once but twice. This proves that the Constitution does adapt to the times. The Bill of Rights is another good example of how the Constitution is modified to fit America's changing views. As I said earlier, the Bill of Rights was not originally included in the Constitution, and the last 17 amendments were not originally included in the Bill of Rights. Look around you. If the Constitution did not adapt to the times, how many people in this room would never be able to vote? Without the Bill of Rights, nobody in this room would be guaranteed the ability to speak freely, practice a religion of their choosing, or have any rights in legal cases. However, we do have these freedoms guaranteed to us. This could not have happened if our Constitution was static. Even one of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, once wrote, and I want to read this from a note card to really emphasize the importance of this quote. Laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind. As that becomes more developed, more enlightened, as new discoveries are made, new truths disclosed, and manners and opinions change with the change of circumstances, institutions must advance also and keep pace with the times. In this quote, we could see that the framers intended for and expected that the Constitution would change over the years. They made an entire system specifically so that our Constitution could be modified, anticipating the evolution of America. This very system is still used year after year to help in improving our laws. Because of this point and others previously mentioned, it would be inaccurate to say that the Constitution does not change.
The original U.S. Constitution is a monumental document for both the United States and the world, but is not without its imperfections. Because of this, it has been modified over the years to better fit our society's needs, using the Supreme Court's decisions and the Bill of Rights amendments. Some people may argue that the Constitution has stayed the same, as all of the original Constitution has remained untouched. This is a fair point to make. However, we cannot forget that the Constitution has had several additions, also known as changes, over the years. As Benjamin Franklin once said, "Our new Constitution is now established, and everything seems to promise that it will be durable. But in this world, nothing is certain except death and taxes." Thank you.
Determination, perseverance, valor. These are all words that describe this beautiful country. These are inspirational words, patriotic words. These are words exemplified by the people of America. Even in its beginnings, the colonists fought hard for this country. They fought battles, protested, rioted, and then the thing they did that really created this country is they wrote the Declaration of Independence. Hello, judges, guests, and my fellow contestants. My name is Joseph Garcia, and I believe that the Declaration of Independence is the single most patriotic U.S. document. First of all, the Declaration of Independence is the birth certificate of America. It is the document we made to say to the world, this is who we are. We are a new people, an independent people, and we will be controlled no longer. What could be more patriotic than that? What could be more patriotic than the beginnings of one's country? I'm sure most of you in this room would say that the 4th of July is the most patriotic holiday, and I happen to agree. And as you know, that was the day that the Declaration of Independence was adopted by the Continental Congress. You would think that the most patriotic holiday would celebrate the most patriotic document. There aren't holidays for the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, or the Articles of Confederation. No U.S. document is more celebrated than the Declaration of Independence. And you know what? It's just that, a Declaration of Independence. It was the article we made that separated us from any outside force or ruler. It demonstrated our strength and our vigor. Without it, no other U.S. document would exist. We wouldn't have this amazing country or the beautiful benefits that come with it if we didn't take the chance to fight the necessary battles in order to free ourselves from an overruling monarchy. This was the first instance of patriotism in our country. This is the American spirit. Today, the American spirit is not shown purely. Today, many people would say that the American spirit simply consists of exercising the Second Amendment and buying cheesy and corny bumper stickers, welcome mats, and signs that remind us of this very popular right. And while all this is just peachy, it does not purely show this American spirit that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the strong-willed, determined people of the 13 colonies. These people wanted to fight for a country that didn't even exist. They wanted a better future for their children and grandchildren. This is patriotism. This is what other countries pale in comparison to. There is no other document in any other country of the world with such undisputed power as this one. There may be similar ones, such as the Magna Carta over in England, but here's the difference. The Magna Carta was created for a previously established country. The Declaration was, like I said, the birth certificate of America. So clearly, this document exemplifies our patriotism the most. Without it, just think, where would we be? We certainly wouldn't have our rights, we certainly wouldn't have our freedoms, and we wouldn't have our democracy. This document established all of this. It began this country, and it separated us from England. Without it, I wouldn't be talking to you here today. Thank you for your time.